What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Flying with Garrett. Today, we're going to talk about regional carriers versus major carriers. What's the difference? Is there a difference? And to the general public, probably not. Before we get into today's episode, do me a favor. If you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Please go ahead and smash that thumbs up button while you're at it. 2 videos a week. I think I say this before every video. Lately, it's been a fiasco. I'm actually interviewing for a new position, for a new job. I'll keep you posted. So subscribe and turn on those bell notifications if you're ready for some pretty sweet content to come. So, regional carriers. Right now, I fly for a regional carrier, so I can give you a lot of information about this. And also, I've been in the major carrier life family ties since the day I was born. My father's been in a major for 35 years. My grandfather retired from a major. I can give you some pretty good information on this. So let's break down a regional. What is a regional? Well, a regional is basically a feeder for a hub of a major. They go out to these smaller cities like Chattanooga, Tennessee, Middletown, Pennsylvania, Watertown, New York, Montgomery, Alabama, and they feed these hubs like Charlotte for American or Atlanta for Delta. These are feeders for connections for passengers to go to their final destination. Now, these hubs, only 40% of passengers' final destination is actually these hubs of these carriers that they're booking through. So let's say for the general public who isn't really familiar with that they're getting on a actual regional carrier, you might go to American Airlines website and book a flight from Roanoke, Virginia to Mobile, Alabama. Well, you're actually booking on American's website, but you're booking through Piedmont Airlines. So Piedmont is actually going to operate that flight. So there's a difference between contract carriers and wholly owns, which we'll get to in a minute. But the major, American Airlines, which is the website that you went to book this flight, is contracting this, but in this case, it's actually a wholly owned of American to Piedmont Airlines. So Piedmont is actually operating this flight from Roanoke to Charlotte. So that's a feeder route to a hub. And then they're connecting on another actual Piedmont Airlines flight from Charlotte to Mobile, Alabama. Now, this can take place many different scenarios. Let's say you're going to, we'll use Roanoke, Virginia again, to Miami, Florida. So you go to American's website, you book your flight, Roanoke, Miami. You're gonna use Piedmont Airlines from Roanoke to Charlotte, and then it's actually going to be an American Airlines flight from Charlotte to Miami. And this can change. You can go Piedmont to Charlotte, and then Charlotte to, let's see, Cleveland, Ohio. That might be a PSA flight. So PSA, Piedmont, and Envoy are wholly owned of American Airlines. Then you've got contract regionals, which are the Republics, the Mesas, the Endeavors, the SkyWest. SkyWest is contracted by American, United, Delta, and even Alaska. Same with Republic. They're contracted with American, Delta, United. So if you're a pilot for Republic Airways, you could fly a United plane one day and a Delta plane the next. The only way to tell that you're getting on a regional carrier, other than the size of the airplane, is you'll see Delta Connection or United Express or American Eagle. That's the best way to tell that you're getting on a regional carrier. Also, if you pay real close attention, most of the time under the flight deck window, you'll see a logo. You'll see the Piedmont, the PSA, the Envoy, the Republic, to let you know that that's who's operating that flight. If you've ever gotten on a flight, you'll hear American Airlines Flight 4911 to Lexington, Kentucky, operated by Piedmont Airlines. You'll hear that sometimes. So the difference between a regional and a major, well, there's a lot, and we're going to break those down. Let's talk about the first one, the one that everyone is interested in, pay. Now, pay between a regional and a major used to be drastically different, and keep in mind it still is. First year pay at a regional now these days can start around $60,000 a year. Now, 6 years ago, it might have been $30,000 a year. Every year, pay at regional carriers continue to increase. And why is this? It's because of the pilot shortage. They are so scarce on pilots right now. They are offering these massive sign-on bonuses, up to $20,000+ just to come work for us. Now, you need to do your research when you see these big flashy bonuses because there's a lot of fine print behind it. It might be paid out over 2 years. You might have to sign a 3-year contract. You might have no contract at all, which unfortunately that was happening for a little bit, where people were going and getting a $10,000 bonus, starting training and then leaving. That's not good. It burned bridges. Aviation community is very small. If you're going to get into this industry, keep that in mind. You never want to burn a bridge in the aviation industry. So the pay at a regional carrier now, let's go with one of the wholly owns of American Airlines. They start around $55 an hour. Versus at American Airlines, when you have that flow-through program, which I've talked about numerous times with Piedmont, PSA, and Envoy, when you flow through American, your first year pay is, I believe, $89 or $90 an hour. So right there, you're talking about a $40 an hour difference. And then from that $90 an hour first year pay, it goes up to, depending on the fleet type, in the 120s, 130s an hour. That's significant. Now your second year pay at a regional might be $56 an hour. So you're only getting $1 an hour raise. So pay right off the bat is a big difference between a regional carrier and a major carrier. Now, some other things that you might consider at a regional carrier versus a major carrier are you might have longer days. And when I say longer days, I mean more flights throughout those days, less rest, quick turns, high stressed environment. You might have 5-6 legs in one day with 25-minute turns, meaning I'm going to Lexington today. I've got 25 minutes to deplane, replane, and push back off that gate. That is a high stress day. You're finding very few moments to even catch your breath, get a bite to eat. The regional life is stress. It has its perks, but it is paying your dues. You've got to go through the regionals to get to the majors. Everyone's dream. That's where everyone's final destination is the major carriers. So between the longer days, some might say, well, if you're at a major and you fly international, that's a much longer day. Well, that's different. You're not doing 5 flights in one day. And on those 8-hour flights where you're going to Barcelona, you've got an IRO and an international relief officer. So you've got 3 people up in the flight deck. You've got your captain, your first officer, and your international relief officer. I believe different companies call them different things, but I believe American calls it an IRO. So you take off with all 3 crew members up there. An hour into the flight, maybe the first officer goes back to either their bunk bed or a first class lie flat seat. They've got 2.5, 3 hours back there to relax, watch movies, eat, sleep, whatever they want to do. So yes, your day might be longer once you get to that end goal, which it is for the majority of people, is to be at a major and fly those long haul, wide body international flights. You make the most money, you have the most time off, you're going to the most extravagant destinations. That is the best there is. To live in base and to be a wide body captain is what they call the dream situation. So yes, you could, I guess, say that a day could be longer at a major, but for a regional, when you've got a 4-day trip and it's 4 to 5, maybe even 6 legs a day, it gets pretty stressful. And then that brings me down to the next point, is schedules. The schedules between a regional carrier and a major carrier tend to be significantly different. The more senior you get at a major carrier, as it is for a regional carrier, but not nearly as much, the more time you get off. Now that doesn't really make sense because you're getting paid more, but that's just how this industry works. The more senior you get, the more money you make, the more time off you get. But scheduling between a regional carrier and a major is drastically different. Now this can go down into many different scenarios, like, for instance, the basic technology. Regional carriers tend not to have as deep pockets as major carriers. They can't get the latest and greatest software or technology for these bidding systems. Bidding systems, most companies have these individual lines depending on the base. So each base, each position, each aircraft. Lines will get published every month. And then you have your seniority. You go and look through these lines and you say, okay, I want this 12-day off line, these overnights, these weekends off. That's my number one choice. And you've got all these choices you go through. And it takes quite a bit of time, especially on the regional level. From what I've experienced, bidding is drastically different between the two. So your schedule can, and most of the time will be, fewer days off at a regional carrier. So that brings me to my next point of overnights. This is a big one. When people are coming out of college, they get their flight time, or however they get their flight time. It might not be college, it might be military, it might be numerous ways. A lot of people get this shiny jet syndrome, we call it. And they see these, and this isn't to put down a regional carrier at all, because regionals are competing every single day, trying to one-up each other to get the newest pilots over to them. But a lot of people get shiny jet syndrome and they see this big, beautiful, I will use it, the Embraer 175. Yes, I'm a little salty. I'm a little jealous that I don't fly it, because I fly the Embraer 145 right now. But this is honestly speaking from relationships that I have with other pilots that I went to college with. They, all these friends that maybe went to the beautiful shiny jet regionals, and I upgraded way faster than them. They may have sat on reserve a whole lot longer. They might have not got the base that they thought that they were going to get with that beautiful aircraft that they thought they were going to get. They ended up going to a regional, getting seat locked on the smaller airplane, like an Embraer 145. And so do your research. I know the playing field is pretty level now these days, and I've made videos about this before, about doing your research and really finding the best regional that works for you and that is aligned with your end goal. Most people now these days aren't going to a regional for a lifelong career. Their end goal tends to be at a major, like a American, a Delta, a United, a FedEx, a UPS, a Southwest, even the Allegiants, the Spirits. All those companies are great. They're all upping their pay. They're all in competition with each other. It couldn't be a better time to be a pilot. But let's go back to overnights. Some of these regional carriers offer better overnights than others, hands down, no doubt. You fly out for Republic out of Miami, you might go and overnight in the Bahamas, or you might do some Caribbean flying. Why wouldn't you want to do that over me? I believe I go to Toledo, Ohio tomorrow. Yeah, I'd much rather be on the beach in the Bahamas than in Toledo, where it's probably snowing and 24 degrees. Yes, that's a big difference. But you got to keep in mind your end goal. I now have a interview with a major carrier next week after just 3 years at a regional. Well, sometimes it takes 3 years to upgrade to the left seat at some of these regionals. So that's why I'm saying don't get that shiny jet syndrome. Don't see those beautiful overnights. Do your research, have your end goal in mind. If quality of life is the number one thing, then you need to look at those type of things. Are you going to live in base? Are you going to be commuting? Where your overnight's going to be? How many days off are you going to have? So overnights and regionals versus overnights and majors. Now, majors, for the most part, overnight in bigger cities that go to better destinations. That's just what it is. So that's a kind of a big comparison. Now, sometimes majors do go into the Roanoke, Virginias. They do. But you tend to overnight in bigger cities. So yeah, it depends what you're into. If you're the type of person that just likes to go to your hotel room and do nothing for the rest of the day, then so be it. But me, I like to go out and explore. I like to find big, nice gyms. I like to find good food. So that's what I can't wait for. I can't wait for the day to be on with a major carrier where I can overnight in those great cities. So now this kind of sums it all up. I hope this gives you a good overview of these regional carriers and the majors, and how these regional carriers are feeding these majors. They feed into their hubs. They work at these smaller outstations and supply for the Deltas out there, the Uniteds out there, the Americans out there. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. If you want more information, throw some comments below. I love to interact with you guys in the comments. If you got ideas for another episode, let me know, and I'll see you guys soon.